Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome. I ask all nominees the following two questions, so I'd like to ask both of you to respond, keeping in mind that Chief Justice John Roberts has recognized that the judicial branch is not immune from a widespread problem of sexual harassment and sexual assault. These are my two questions. Since you became a legal adult, have you ever made unwanted requests for sexual favors or committed any verbal or physical harassment or assault of a sexual nature?
No, Senator.
No, Senator.
Have you ever faced discipline or entered into a settlement related to this kind of conduct?
No, Senator.
No, Senator.
Mr. Park, you were listed as counsel for Scott Lloyd and Garza versus Arzan. And this case involved an unaccompanied immigrant teenager who had fled life-threatening abuse, and she discovered she was pregnant while in government custody and requested an abortion. Then Judge Kavanaugh described the case as being about parental consent. Do you agree?
I'm not familiar with. So our representation in that case was for two officials, and the argument that we were raising on their behalf was that individuals sued in their personal capacities there's a higher bar, that there has to be a violation of a clearly established constitutional right. So the argument that our clients raised in that case was that for undocumented non-citizens detained at the border, there is not such a clearly established constitutional right.
That's a whole other argument that one of the other judges, I think, agreed with you on that point. But are you saying that as far as you're concerned, the description of the Garza case is one involving parental consent? In fact, Judge Kavanaugh wrote a very strong dissent on the basis that he viewed that as a parental consent case. So you had no awareness that the argument was being made that that was a parental consent case.
What I can tell you, Senator, is that our clients did not frame the issue that way.
So knowing that, I'm trying to pursue this because it occurs to me that I think you would have an awareness as to the other arguments that were being made in a case, even if it wasn't particularly the argument you were making, or were you just so totally focused on just your precise argument that that this was being decided by at least one judge as a parental consent case that did not come to your attention at all? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not sure I'm following your question.
Well, I asked you a simple question as to whether or not you agree with Judge Kavanaugh that the Garza case was a parental consent case, as he testified under oath before this committee.
So yeah, Senator, I thought I tried to respond to that was not the way that our clients.
Yes, so you're saying that you don't know. I think that's how I take you're not expressing a position one way or the other. So let's move on. There's been a lot of discussion about your advocacy, and I think it's very clear that you are a very strong advocate. You have been an advocate arguing against diversity programs, against women's reproductive rights, because you've argued for efforts to defund Planned Parenthood. You've opposed government's efforts to use eminent domain to provide affordable housing. In fact, there was one case that even involved Maui County. You've defended the citizenship question on the census, and you have been supportive of challenging the ACA's Medicaid expansion. So all of these kinds of cases may come before you. Should you be on the Second Circuit, would you recuse yourself in these kinds of cases? Because you have been a very strong advocate on these positions.
Well, Senator, recusal is a very important issue, and I will consider in each case whether the recusal statute, what the requirements are. I would plan to consult with colleagues and ethics officials.
Okay, I only have 40 seconds left, so that is what all of the nominees come to say. But my question is, all of these cases that you were involved in making these arguments as an advocate, do these arguments that you propounded comport with your own views?
Senator, my job as a lawyer is to represent the views of my client.
Well, I know you said that, but while you're representing the views of your clients, did these arguments also comport with your own views?
So sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But as a general rule, the lawyer's views are not attributed to the client and vice versa. That's kind
I
of
understand
ways.
that. I'm a lawyer also, but I'm just interested, as you were arguing against diversity programs and defunding Planned Parenthood, did these positions comport with your own views in these matters?
Senator, respectfully, I don't think my own views matter in terms of my representation of my clients.
See,
And
the
it
thing
would
is,
be-
if I may just make, the entire purpose of the questions that we ask of all of our nominees is whether these very strongly held views and advocacy positions that you've taken, whether these positions can be set aside to be a objective judge. And that is the crux of our questions. And to be constantly told that your personal views, what you wrote, what you stood for, what you uttered even yesterday, have no relevance, even considering that Justice Rehnquist said that you all don't come before us as blank slates. You are all a product of all of the life experiences that you've had, including the very strongly held views, which is fine. You can have whatever views you want as long as those views do not interfere with your ability to be objective. And that is why I ask you whether or not these are strongly held personal views, but I'm not getting an answer to that. Thank you very much.